now that I got him. You all set? Okay, thank you.
I can't see it.
All right, call this meeting to order of the M.S.A.D 49 Board of School Directors. Roll call, please.
Here.
Here. I have not heard from him. Here. She is unable to make it this evening.
Here.
Here.
She's unable to make it.
Here. Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Okay. We'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the minutes. Will the M.S.A.D 49 Board vote to approve the minutes of the September 6, 2018 meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Danielle, seconded by Tim. Any discussion? All those in favor? 4, 7, 8, 9. Opposed? Abstain. 9, 0, 1. Did I count right? Citizens input. This is the time of the meeting that if there are any citizens present that have anything to say to the board, this is the time for them to do so. Anybody have anything? Okay, moving on. It's also the time where I remind people that the many of our schools collect a variety of items for our elementary schools and as well as the high school, from Box Top for Education to Hannaford Dollars, and remind people to collect those, especially Hannaford Dollars this time of year. Also, I know that we are always in need of clothing for our Bulldog closets. I know the elementary, when we get into winter months, and they can always use some warmer clothing for changes if the kids get wet. The Bulldog Closet, I believe I got an email actually that we have some JMG students that are looking for some business clothing to get for on their programs for GMG. So if anybody has anything that they'd like to donate, I'm sure that would be most appreciative. Does anybody have anything they'd like to make for an announcements?
Yeah,
on
the
that?
JMG got a $500 gift card today from Melissa Patterson.
Oh, nice.
Melissa Patterson. I don't know if it's from Melissa or Benton. Got
Nice.
that today, and somebody else donated a pair of pants they were looking for. So.
Oh, good, good. So, oh, you're gonna speak louder.
The
Oh.
JMG got a $500 donation today from Melissa Patterson, and somebody else also donated a pair of dress slacks.
Nice.
So their need is posted on the alumni Facebook page.
Would you like us to shut the fan off, just so you guys can hear better?
No, just talk out.
Okay, well, like, that's a chore for me, you know that, Terry, right? Okay, let's move on. Old business. Vote to accept the recommendation of the Policy Committee to adopt the revised standing committees as Education Programming, Finance and Facilities, Policy and Planning as presented. It would be the first Thursday of each month, starting in October, to be dedicated to all standing committees with the full school board meetings on the third Thursday of each month. Before we take a vote, do you, Policy, you want to explain what we discussed for the committees?
Well, this was one that I voted to table at the last meeting, so I
Right.
think we should really have discussion with the full board.
Right,
In policy, there was just a few of us there. Terry's had a policy but wasn't there. Well, you were. So this is something that Dr. Nyman had discussed with us, how he'd like to see our committees scheduled so that we have more of a stakeholders group, something that I have taken in and I'm a lot more receptive to it. And And as a group, the policy committee that was there, we thought it'd be a good idea to move forward to it. What would happen is we break down basically into 3 committees, and they'd be combined. Instead of 6 committees, we'd have 3, and on that first Thursday of each month, that would be our board meeting. We would break off into separate rooms, and we'd meet with stakeholders groups. So most likely, one of the board members will chair those committees. They'll bring it back just like normal committee would to the board. So we don't lose board control. It's just gonna get more people involved and more stakeholders involved, hopefully administrators, teachers, you know, employees, students maybe, depending on what issues there may be. So I know it's a big change for us because a lot of us are used to being on multiple committees. If this would take our work and distribute it amongst the board a lot more evenly, I think we'd be more productive because it would be a once-a-month meeting. And we just have to trust those committees like we do now. I mean, right now, there's 3 or 4 of us that sit on policy. And we bring that, we do our first reading, second reading, and then it becomes policy. Those things wouldn't change. The hope and the idea is to get more of a stakeholders group at each committee. So finance and buildings, we're kind of doing that now, Jenny and Neil. They have every other meeting. We were coming an hour early. Now that would be one big group. They'd sit down and determine what our needs are for the year or what's best suited for us in the future. Bring that back to the group and do a report, just like we currently do. So it's more of combining those 6 committees, downsizing them into 3, and we're all stakeholders because we're gonna break off that night, where some of us may not be on any committees right now. You know, so education, Jenny and I, Katie, we do dropout, that would be part of educational, curriculum. So, I mean, we need to discuss it as a group, but that's more the idea, not to take control away from the board, but to combine those committees and attack them more on a monthly basis. I really like the idea.
I think one of the things that I liked about it too was it gives everybody can take part in that committee. And if you're on one committee, but there's something another committee is discussing that night that you have a real interest in, there's no reason that you can't go to that committee meeting. When we were sitting around as a policy committee discussing, you know, who would be good on what committees, we kind of broke it down because of how our strengths are. For example, because athletics and everything would be on the education, we thought Tim would be good on that. But because it's also education, Katie's experience would be great for education, and Kara's on education. Even Danielle, we said Danielle on education because she works with literacy volunteers. Jenny's our finance person. Jenny is great would be finance and facilities, and Neil's facilities. You know, there's certain reasons that we thought would be great. You can choose whatever committee you want to be on, but, you know, we kind of went through the list and was able to kind of break it down into pretty much 4, and 5 on the different committees, but we thought that would work. But if you want to be on something else, you know, you're welcome to do that. We just kind of was throwing it out there when we were discussing it based on strengths, because we all have our own, you know, different strengths that brought to the board, which I think we have such a diverse group on the board now that it really makes it nice that we come at it from different experiences. Anybody have any questions? Or Jenny?
I have concerns. I'm
Okay.
concerned that this will limit participation of board members who currently do participate in multiple committees. Because I understand the idea that they could float from one committee to another, but for all practical reasons, that means they're giving up their time in their normal committee meeting. So I think that we could lose some expertise or some activity of board members. I noticed that also the draft changed from the one that we had earlier this month. And now the chair, the committee appoints its own chair, which I think is better than being appointed by the board. But now the vice chair is a member of administration. Has administration weighed in on whether or not they all want to participate in this manner and serve as vice chair?
It was a recommendation because our existing bylaw says that a committee elects a chair. So we changed that to adopt to that. As well as my hope was that each discussion on any particular topic goes into the full subcommittee discussion or committee discussion. That committee is going to have a school board, it's going to have a staff, which will have rotating, or whoever wishes to attend, we will have that based on the expertise or topic. Then it will have a parent with the fair representation. It will have the staff with the fair representation and some students perhaps. And then it's an open meeting so the community can come to it. So the fair representation with the board is going to discuss on the education programs any issue related to curriculum, special education, athletics, and monthly, each athletic director or special education director, they report to that subcommittee what is going on, what happens. There is a full discussion on a particular topic. So the intent is really to have a larger fair representation with the board and dedicate a full time on a particular topic that needs to be discussed, and then come back to the full board with a recommendation. So the language that was there changed was because the policy committee had a conversation and made a recommendation to make sure we have a board, staff responsible, and then also have a secretary. But it's really nothing new. Other school districts do it too in the region, like RSU 18 and others. My intention is really to have full dedicated time on discussing a particular topic. And when it comes back to the board, you may decide, I really like to send this back to the subcommittee discussion or committee discussion, because I think we have more questions. And it'll be a more dedicated time to discuss. Fair representation, wider discussion, and dedicated time on a particular topic. I think that was the intent. Good.
I think one of your concerns as far as board members taking part in other committees, I, for one, that have been on every committee for the last several years, I actually like this idea because it, I won't be out 5 nights a week or 4 nights a week on when we get going some of this. And then we had, I think it was Danielle and Kara were like, great, I would get to actually take more of a thing. My suggestion is we try it. I mean, if we decide after we do this for several, 2 or 3 months or 4 months, or it's not what we don't like it, we can change it. We don't have to stick with it. I just think and my personal opinion is it gives us more board members a chance to participate that haven't participated much in committees because of their work schedules or their home life schedules or whatever, and they're out anyway for that first Thursday of the month. They're gonna be here for a board meeting, and that's what it's for, is the committee meetings. Anybody? Yeah, Ron?
See, I kind of concur, with Jen, just because, like you said, you were out 5 days. Well, nobody makes you. You know what I'm saying? You choose what you want to be on currently, right? You choose, so you go to what you want.
Right, but as chair, I felt
That's
that,
it.
yeah, right,
So you don't have to do anything.
right,
Many people that sit here today don't.
right.
They come to things they want to come to, and that's it, or
Right.
can come to. So I don't see a problem there with having too many meetings, too many nights a week. I know,
You're
all
one
know
like me,
I'm
that
there
is that,
too,
I get it.
But that would limit what I can participate in,
Mhm.
okay? And I don't want to be limited in that way. The second thing is, I have questions, legal questions, issues about the structure. I don't know as a committee of the board can have non-board members on the committee. They can consult, they can have you can be open to the public, but can you have a non-board member as a voting member of that committee? So before we do anything, I'd just like a legal decision on that.
Yeah, the statute in Massachusetts and Maine, it only gives the opportunity for full discussion, and the chair of that board comes to the full committee
Right?
and makes recommendation as a member of the board. And those that were involved in that discussion only contributed to that decision. So, as a board member, if you had a topic in particular we wanted to talk about, there are 2 maybe board members that are sitting there. Everyone participates, public is coming to have full
Right,
input.
but Dr. Naaman,
Yes.
the problem is that's not the case.
Okay,
Years and years I've sat in committee meetings and committee meetings and committee meetings. And the number of times that a member of the public has shown up
Yeah.
is none, okay? Nobody comes. And, well, yeah, except for people that used to be on the board, maybe that would come in and talk. Other than that, I don't see any issue. And as far as administrators, administrators can come to any meeting, anytime, and participate in any way they'd like. So why would we change what we already have in order, you know, even though I like the concept to
Yeah.
kind of push everybody to participate, it does some negative things too. It requires that you're only on one committee. Okay, you can be on as many as you want, but you can't really, because how are you gonna be in this corner with that committee and in that corner with the other committee? Can't do it. And I do have legal issues about the effect of a committee's recommendation, right? A vote in the committee and its recommendation, that's effective to the board. The board says, okay, yeah, good. When, you know, that can be a problem if you have some committee members that have voted opposite or contrary to what the board really wants, you know? So I just have issues with that. I'd like to table it until we get a,
I think it sounds like a very good idea to me, because half the reason that I don't come to all these committee meetings is because I don't want to have to go 18 dozen times a week, and maybe somebody else does, and that's fine. Let them go to all the meetings that they want to. But I see nothing wrong with it. I think we're meeting to death.
but Janice, you just answered your own question. You say go to whatever meetings you want to.
Well,
But
you can go
can't-
to
you
them.
can't, Jan, you can't go to committee meetings at
Well,
the
you
same
could
time.
go to one meeting one week and another meeting another
No,
week.
no. We're talking about every month, once a month.
Yeah.
And once a month, we're gonna discuss whatever comes.
Yeah.
Okay? So you won't have that opportunity. If you wanna talk about budget, you're
Well,
not
it's
gonna
gonna
be
be brought up.
Well, wait, well, Ronnie,
Can I make
budget,
a
It's gonna be
suggestion?
brought
Budget's an ad
before the,
hoc.
Board
Hold
to
on.
vote.
The problem is the work gets done in the committee.
Yeah.
When it comes to the board, we've already hashed it out, worked it out, talked to whoever we needed to talk to. And it pretty much, when it comes here, what's the routine been? What's it been?
Yes or
Yay,
no?
nay, whatever, okay? And it's done. So it's too important, the committee membership is too important to just let it go out there and you just can't participate because they're all simultaneous. That's all I'm saying, you know?
Can I make a suggestion, because is it possible for each committee to meet at a different day and time as they wish?
Well, that's exactly what we do now.
No, the full committees, I mean, like education programs will have a meeting, you know, different than policy planning and finance and facility, different day and time. This way you can do that.
can I jump in before you do that? Look, right now, you're right, there's a few of us that are on every committee. Okay, but I can't say that I don't, if I'm not on policy committee anymore, I
Right.
can't say that I don't trust it's in the hands of the right people.
It's not an issue of trust, it's a matter of, I
Okay,
have a
but
vote and I
there's-
would like to vote.
And you
So
still
take
do,
that away from me.
but no, I'm not
Still
taking it
going
away
to.
from
Yes,
you.
In the
Ronnie,
committee, you do.
the committee's gonna report back to the full board. And if
yes.
I have questions, much like Jenny does many times when she can't be at a meeting or a
Right.
committee meeting,
Right.
she writes down all her concerns and questions, and she gets them to us. And it's our due diligence to ask those questions. I call Jenny, I will text her or email her back and ask questions as well.
Good in
you know.
theory, Tim, but it doesn't really work
But
that
it
way.
does, Ronnie,
It doesn't
because
work that way. There are
if-
so many things that we talk about in a committee
If
that
you're,
never, we
if
wouldn't
you're
have time to have a
interested
school
in
board
that
meeting.
policy or that particular meeting,
If we had school board meetings that were hashed out just like our policy committee meetings, they take the same, that would take the whole meeting. That would be the whole agenda of what we did on policy.
one
Because there are
person's
times we're
controlled every
3-4
committee
hours.
meeting I've ever been in. The same one person has always been in charge of every committee I'm on. Has always been that way. That's
I don't
not,
know what you mean. What do you mean?
yes, you do.
What do you mean?
The superintendent has always been the head man at every committee meeting I've been in. The
We've
only
changed that.
time,
We've changed that.
no, we haven't. We're trying to change it. So we've had workshops. We try to do workshops because we feel like the board can't get any work done because everything's dictated to us. Now, what this is bringing about is an opportunity to have a monthly meeting. Tonight's meeting would be where we would report all the committee meetings. Okay?
Yeah, well, all the committee meetings that you could be on in
Policy,
the previous, the
but
previous
policy,
meeting
Ronnie,
of the month.
we meet when they say,
Who would
we
be on
have
the
a
policy
policy
committee?
issue.
I'd be on the policy committee, right?
Yeah, if
So
that's
how's
what
Timmy
you
gonna know
wanted to
what
do.
happened in the policy committee?
'Cause you're gonna
what I
report
say-
to it the
What I
next
want you,
meeting.
what I want to say, right? That's the problem with this thing.
Okay, hold on.
If you're not there.
There is
wait,
one-
wait.
but there's a reason we
If
can
you're
do.
not there, you don't know what was really, this is,
But
this
you
is.
they're all
can,
gonna be
because we're gonna
filmed.
videotape every one of them.
The agenda.
So we're gonna watch the videotape at the board meeting?
No,
You
you
have
can
the
go
op-
on, you're
you
gonna
have
have time to
opportunity.
go, you're gonna have the opportunity to
I
do
still don't
that.
think it's a good idea. That's my opinion.
Let me, can I
It's
just
worked-
give
it's worked
can I
well
just
for
give
us
an
in the past.
example? Let's say we're gonna discuss, studying the scheduling at the high school.
Yeah,
or-
I don't need an example.
No,
I'm
I'm
just
just-
telling you, I don't think it's a good idea, but
Or
you can
just-
change it to whatever you want, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
And you're not gonna get participation
Yeah.
by parents, because it's not gonna happen. You know it. It's been years and years that who cares?
Yeah.
How many people can tell in this community, in our 10,000 voters in this district, how many people even know that there's a board meeting tonight? How many people know who their board member is?
I think from my
Yeah.
perspective though, with all due respect, my intent is to make sure that fair representation is there. The issue
It
of
is
whether-
there, Dr. Knapp. Listen, fair representation meaning the public has a chance to speak, or is that what you mean? Is that fair representation?
No, I mean to be the staff, the community member, the teachers, paraprofessionals, students,
And
you
so,
know.
and currently, they don't have that opportunity.
Not really, Ronnie.
You don't have it systemic, like anyone can show up, you know? It's not
And so, are we gonna direct that these administrators show up to these committee
Yeah,
meetings?
there'll be rotating and based on, for example, Tara will be in the finance and facility
Okay, you say
report.
they're gonna rotate. So it also says in that document that, one administrator is gonna be the vice chair.
The policy recommended
That
that, so
was-
we can.
Okay, so the vice chair. So one person in that committee is gonna be there continuously. So how do the person that we select as chair for that committee?
In addition to that staff, there would be more coming. Like you could have Tara be their vice chair, but it could be an issue with the M.S.A.D, so you could have Corey come in to report about a particular issue, any budget impact.
So really no permanent person, just a rotating presence on
Well, the vice chair would be the permanent, if we decided to
the
keep
permanent
it
administrator
on the
assigned.
committee.
So
Yeah, it
there'll
would
be
be
4 permanent administrators assigned to these committees?
three.
Okay. 3, and then Dr. Naaman.
Right.
And these 3 will be there all the
And then
time.
other
In
staff
addition
will
to
be
original.
coming all the time.
And these 3 will be there all the time.
Yes.
And they'll be selected
Well,
by,
The-
do we choose
They
them?
we
I
can
mean,
choose them if we want to, or
If,
he,
if you have finance and facility, I would want Tara to be there. So I think based on the, you know, if you have education program deals with the S.P.E.D, you want to make sure to be there. You want to make sure Roberta's there to take part.
Well, see, that's my
Right.
issue. You
Yep.
have a lot of people that you're gonna have to pull in for
Yeah.
consultation.
and
yeah,
that's
which is
part of
good.
the,
Which is good. That's a fair representation.
No, but you said somebody's gonna be elected as the,
well, we don't have to. That was just something that we had talked about, is having an administrator as a vice.
you
But
have
we
a
can say,
proposal there. You have a
well, yes,
proposal.
but we can change the proposal. If you think, if having a vice chair as an administrator is, you know, not what the board thinks is a good idea, we don't have to. We can make
I
it
say we
two
go with
board
that,
members.
but the committees meet different days.
Yes.
Different
That-
nights.
I agree.
So the same
Once
week
a
of
month.
every month?
I agree.
The first week in every, the
Dif-
first week
I
of the
would
month,
absolutely do that.
we could
Yeah.
do a
Different days,
Tuesday,
yeah.
Wednesday, and
Yeah.
Thursday.
With the caveat that the administrative thing is checked out legally by whoever our.
Yes, I would do a legal
they-
counsel.
You know, because I do have concerns about authority of the
Yes,
board,
I would do
Right.
legal.
authority of the board and
Yes.
committee.
Right.
Sure. I can do that, Ron. I would definitely do
See,
a legal.
that, for me, that would work.
So,
I
okay,
just, Ronnie, you think of how many times we sat in committee, we had a question, and I don't know, let's call Tara and see if she's still in to answer.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's
I have
call
no issue with that,
Cheryl
Timmy.
and see if
No.
Cheryl's still in to answer questions.
Listen, do you see all the people here?
I love
And guess
it.
why all the people here? What's the first thing we said? We want the people here, right?
Right.
Because when we do have a question,
yes,
well, we'll have to wait and get an answer, and then we'll have to wait 3 weeks until we have another
Right.
board meeting, and then, you know.
But again, I don't know how prior was, other than the same one person on the committees.
Good. I was
It's
trying to
lies
get that
and
too.
die.
And
I'm
now-
glad you killed it.
Now we have the opportunity, you know, maybe teachers will come, especially
I was trying to
educational.
go after
if-
it.
If they have
It's
ideas
bugging me.
that maybe were squashed in the past. I see somebody nodding yes in the back, okay? I'm not gonna point out any names.
Listen, you're
But I-
not
but-
telling me anything.
But those are the people that we want to bring in. Those are the people we pay to do the jobs. I think if they feel welcome to be here, they will gladly give their expertise. Not necessarily will it go their way, but at least we're gonna get
I
the
concur.
true thoughts of our entire district.
I concur.
There may be a parent, I got a problem with this policy. Well, they're gonna come if they feel they have an open voice. Doesn't
Absolutely.
mean it's not gonna get
Absolutely
brought
concur.
to the board
Yeah.
for a final vote on committee, and the committee will still be chaired by a member of the board. So I like it, because it frees me up, and and I have to give the trust to my fellow constituents, elected representatives of the board. They're gonna, if you do it on that Thursday, they're gonna be here. There's 9 of us here right now, we split up 3, 3, and 3, whatever it may be. We go on, we get work done, and that's what I'm always afraid of. The work doesn't get done, it gets pushed off to the next meeting, and if we don't tackle it all,
Listen,
it gets
Jim,
pushed
so-
off to the next
So
meeting.
if you do what I suggested, do the one night per committee, you've gone from, 4 nights a week to 3 nights a month,
Yeah,
okay?
Right.
I like,
If
I
that's
like
what
the
you,
idea.
if that
Well,
four,
well,
if
the
that,
full-
yeah,
the
if
board
that's
meeting,
what
but
you,
I'm saying
one
committee
of them,
meetings.
3 nights in 1
Yeah.
week, if you want to do all 3, because I would have,
That's right.
I would suggest,
Somebody has
if
it on
we
that.
do that, that it's
I
like
like-
a
I
Tuesday,
like the
Wednesday,
idea.
Thursday.
Yeah, I like the
and
idea, Ron.
Whichever committee,
Yeah.
and to be honest with
That's
you,
what people do usually. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that idea.
well, I think the committee
Yeah.
could decide their
You
own
can pick on
day,
your
you know,
day.
like I said,
What
you
I
know, the
like-
basic
I like
committee,
that.
whatever works, because if you, because like I said, I mean,
That's what the districts do usually?
Yeah.
The committee picks a day? Sure.
right, right.
2 things I like what you
Sounds like
said.
education's meeting on Thursdays.
Yeah, I just can't, yeah.
I like what you said, Ron. 2 things which I agree totally. Different day and time, depends on what committee feels appropriate, and check with the legal counsel.
Yeah.
And that's all I want to do, is
Yep.
check with it, because it's
Sounds good.
very vague about,
Yep. I appreciate it, Ron.
Any-
Thank you.
Any further discussion on this? So,
So I'll make a motion that we change the committee meetings to 3 days. to
3
be
different
determined.
days.
3 different days to be determined. One of which should probably be, like, especially what's the finance one?
Yes,
You
yeah,
know, the finance one probably should be on that first,
yeah.
you know,
Can we say the first week of,
The month?
do the
the
first,
board.
the week of the month, so
the
we're always
first board
on.
meeting,
first
Normal board meeting of the month would
That
be the
should be
first
like-
Thursday.
The
finance.
first one, finance and facility, yes.
Finance and facilities.
Okay.
That's what we've generally done, right? Or
Yes.
has it been the second?
You've
I
done it
can't-
right before the board
Well,
meetings usually.
One has been, like Neil has had the facilities meeting.
one night and-
One night, and I've had it the other night.
Right, so that, I would think that it would work best if we had
Yes,
Finance,
finance and
finance and
Facilities.
facility.
facilities on that first.
like on a
Thursday.
Tuesday.
The other 2 we would
Then
determine.
the other 2, we could determine somewhere near there.
Yep.
You know, that
Jenny,
first week.
You're our
second week.
finance person. Are Tuesday nights generally okay for you?
Thursday night. okay.
No,
No.
no. So what night works for you?
At 7?
Friday?
At 7 o'clock on a, yeah,
Sunday.
I mean, what, if you
Okay.
want to do it at 6, if you want to do it at 7, I mean, the
At
finance committee.
7 on Tuesday, it would be fine.
Okay.
So if we did like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for the meetings, and then if, finance being the first one is on a Tuesday night at 7? Well, we can do Monday if you want to do Mondays, I mean, that's
Yeah.
up to,
Point of order, can we vote
Sure, yeah,
first?
yeah.
Because
Okay.
okay,
we may
yeah,
be talking about something that
Okay.
doesn't matter.
okay,
Okay, so what are we voting on?
okay.
The original proposal
So-
or the change?
So,
I still like the one then.
What you said was to revise this to have the full, the, what's called committee meetings, standing committee meetings, to be at 3 different nights, with the recommendation of the finance and facility to be the first
Board meeting.
That's your
board
vote.
meetings, and the other 2 to be determined by the committee, and to confirm the legal counsel language
Yeah.
on the authority.
okay, so, there's been no seconded yet on that. Huh? Okay.
And I just forgot what I said.
Sorry.
Finance and facilities can be determined, I mean, it doesn't have to be.
They can
possible
determine their
to
own
Tuesday,
time,
I
right.
don't think. You could-
Yeah,
we
the
could just
finance
make
and,
the
yeah,
decision
they
on
can
that
deter,
day.
okay, so we need a second first on that to.
I'll second it.
Okay,
I don't want to come 3 days in a week.
well, you don't have to. If you want. Okay, so right now, we have a motion on the floor, that we change, change the committee meetings of the board will be three nights, three separate committees, 3 separate nights.
Well, those are actual board meetings. That's
Yeah,
going to take
those
the
are-
place of that
Right, it's
first
supposed to be
Thursday
taking
of
a
the
place.
month.
That's why we're gonna vote on it first,
You could just put the first week of every month,
the first
Yeah.
week of the month.
and
First
we
week
can
of the
decide.
Okay, hold
One
on,
of
we've
them
gotta.
will be the board meeting.
Could be
Hold
every
on, we
Thursday,
have a
could be-
motion on the floor first. We gotta take care of this motion first, and we can make the decision out. If that fails, then we come back with a different motion.
Well, you got a motion second, they can discuss it.
We got a motion and second, yes, we can, okay. Yes, thank you.
They can
So
discuss
let's
it.
discuss that, so. I just was trying to repeat the motion before we go any further.
Is it clear on the motion, everybody?
Is everybody clear on the motion that
This
we?
is the one about the first week of the month, like everyone having, okay, every committee meeting being on a
Right,
different night.
one night
Okay.
of each week,
Okay.
of that
That
week.
week.
One
Okay.
Right,
of the
okay,
week.
so further discussion
what we want.
concerning that. So, Sean, you started this,
With the exception of, we're gonna find out about legal counsel.
right,
I'm just going by this sheet that was
Yep.
provided. And the vice chair portion will come out, but the chair will still be the board member.
right.
Okay.
Well,
The vice chair
we're
will
finding
be-
about legal counsel about
The
vice
vice
chair.
chair.
Whether they, yep,
can a member of the committee be a non-board member?
right.
A voting member of the committee be a non-board member?
Yep.
Right,
Anybody can come to the meeting,
right,
anybody can talk at the meeting.
okay. So, any other discussion before we vote on,
Yeah, I just,
Yeah.
are they, members of the committee voting members, Ronnie? No.
We
they're
never
not.
vote at a
No,
committee
committee
meeting.
chair
You have a
reports back
recommendation.
the recommendation of the
We
committee.
have at least a consensus to report to the board,
Correct.
okay? That's the
Right.
same as a vote.
No, it's not.
No, that's a
A
consensus.
consensus is, yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Move the question.
There you go.
okay. So, let's take a vote. Motion again is to change the committee meetings for the board to 3 separate committees. We'll meet on three nights, the first week of the month.
The motion is adopt this draft, right?
To-
The draft mean.
Well, no, it's the
No,
motion that Ron
put-
gave.
Ron put a motion first, Janice just seconded it about changing it to 3 separate nights instead of all the committees meeting on one night.
Okay.
Okay.
So, basically, the motion we're voting on first is what Ron had.
So the amendment to this,
Yeah.
Right.
to the original motion.
Yep.
Well, there was no original motion, this was
Well,
just a
what-
reading of what it was, right,
So I think somebody
There
already.
was a original motion, I
there
tabled
was.
it
Yeah.
from last,
from last meeting.
okay,
There was an original motion.
Yeah.
I
Right.
think we voted to
yes,
table.
you're right, thank you.
Sounds good.
Okay, so, let's see if we get back on track again. So, the vote is to accept 3 separate nights in the first week of the month for the committee work for the board. Is that basically what everybody is
Excuse me,
understanding?
3 separate committees.
3
And
separate
They
committees.
determine when the meetings could be, so there could be 2 on Thursday, 2 on Tuesday, 2 on Wednesday.
Yeah,
Right,
Or all
That's
3
it.
separate, am I correct?
right,
Or all
exactly
3 on
as you
Thursday?
said.
and they could all,
No, the
We
motion
said
was 3
three
different
separate
days.
nights. The motion was 3
That's what I
separate
said.
nights.
3 separate days. The whole point is to be able to attend as many as you want.
Yeah.
All or
So
none.
right now, the motion is for 3 separate nights for the 3 separate committees. So they just have to meet on 3, that's what the motion is right now. So if you agree and you want it 3 separate nights for the 3 separate committees, say,
Vote
all
now.
those in favor?
All those in favor.
I don't know.
all those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. Abstain? 1.
Still
Oh,
don't understand.
Okay. All right, that motion failed.
We don't understand it.
Well, it's like 10 iterations of
It's the amendment basically to the original motion failed. So
We're back to
we're
what's.
back to what's the proposal is, the original motion is to have a standing Thursday night, regular first meeting of the month will be all committee meetings, the 3 committees will meet the first Thursday of the month in place of a regular school board meeting.
So I just make a motion to change that to the committees make the decision on when the meetings will be, but they have to be within the first week of the month.
No.
We
It's
just
gonna-
voted that down.
Yeah, that's what we just voted down.
No, we
Yeah,
voted
yeah,
down, no, we voted down that they have to be 3 separate nights.
No. I
Oh,
said
yes,
three
that's what
separate
we
nights.
voted down, yes. You're right, Sean, that is what we
Okay.
just voted down. To have them, that they had to be 3 separate nights.
So my motion is I can make a decision, each committee can make a decision, have it on every Thursday, can have it every Tuesday. The following month, they could have it on Tuesday, the following month,
Oh,
they could have it on
no,
Thursday. But it's the first week of the month.
First week,
Always has to be the first week of the month.
now,
The whole idea in this is to replace your first
Meeting.
Thursday board meeting as committee meetings.
right, because you're
Right.
here
So
for
that
a
we
Thursday
get more
anyway.
representation from our board, because our board shows up to our board meetings. They
Right.
don't necessarily show up to our committee meetings.
Right.
So most of our board that does not attend committee meetings is voting blindly anyway. They're going on the recommendation of the committee because they're not really involved in any committees, which is why I strongly believe, even though I can't attend all 3 meetings, it is what is best for the board because it gives a better representation of all of us. Now, it doesn't mean that we can't do different times on that Thursday night. If you're really adamant about having, go to 3 different committee meetings.
Well, that would just increase, you'd be 6 hours.
Hey, whatever, whether it's 2 hours, 3 days a week, or 6 hours one
Well,
night.
that's kind of ridiculous.
When I sign up to come to a committee meeting or a board meeting, I'm here till the end of the meeting. That's what I got elected to do. If it lasts till 1 o'clock, it lasts till 1 o'clock. If it lasts till 8.
We actually have a 10
policy-
o'clock cutoff.
There may not be anything on policy and planning in a given month. There may not be
Okay.
any need for that meeting. You go to a different meeting.
All right, let's, any further discussion before? All right, yes, Danielle, you want to have?
Doesn't he need a second?
He does.
We need a,
You did.
okay, so, did we need, are there
Sean
any
needs a
seconds to
second.
Sean's motion? Any seconds? All right, motion fails. All right, back to the original motion. To have committee meetings on the first Thursday of the month instead of a regular board meeting.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we have, board meeting, in place of the board meeting, we have committee meetings the first Thursday of the month.
Let me ask a question, point of order. How many people were at the committee meeting, the policy committee meeting where this was drawn up?
3. Oh, where the policy committee, there was 3.
There were 3 people. Who was there?
Me, Jim, and Caroline.
And how many people on that committee?
5.
5, yeah.
Okay.
You and Terry being the other 2.
Okay.
Okay. Any further discussion on that motion? All right. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Opposed? 8 to 0. All right. So the first meeting in October will be based on committee meetings. You can sign up for your committee, or I can give you what the recommendation was, or you can sign up for your own committee.
How about everybody just signs up for their own committees?
Yep.
That's
Right.
fine.
And, we'll leave
Yep.
it at that.
Yep.
Okay,
Because we don't have to be on a committee.
No, you don't have to.
okay.
All right,
It should be at the board meeting.
right. It's
That
a
is your
regular,
board meeting.
it is your board meeting, so
Yeah, but you don't have
everybody
to be on
should be
committee, so
at
you don't have
a
to go to
committee.
board meeting,
Yeah,
Right?
that's
No,
it.
it is a regular board meeting night.
Well, how can you, then you have to be on a
No.
committee. You're going to just sit at the
We
table.
can go in. We cannot do it.
Okay.
He's right.
Okay.
He's right. You're right, Ron.
You're
So
right.
What am I saying?
You are correct.
So, listen, let me ask you, so
Right.
we're talking about, you don't have to come to that first meeting, we don't have 2 board meetings a month then?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Just asking.
Yep.
And if that's what, it chooses to happen and we find it doesn't work, then we may want to make some adjustments.
And we still need to check statute on
Yeah,
legal.
this
And
is
we're gonna
all
still
Yes,
check
I'll-
the legal.
I'll
based on
definitely,
statute.
Right.
I will
we're
definitely
gonna
do that.
look into.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's gonna check the legal. Jenny?
Another thing that's gonna have to be the agenda is gonna have to, sorry, Dale, go ahead.
The way our policies are, or our committees are outlined right now are in our bylaws. So before this can even happen, don't we need to amend our bylaws?
Well, the bylaws don't actually list all the committees out.
Say
They
how they
only
work.
list out, finance, which is finance and facilities.
And policy.
And policy, there is one, so
Right,
the
so-
committees are listed out, those are the only
Right, but
two
they're not-
listed.
They're not listed out this way, and do our bylaws address the frequency of our meetings?
No, they address, regular meetings are the first and third Thursday of each month,
Right, so I think before we can actually implement this, we need to have an amendment to our bylaws.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the process to amend our bylaws?
we just need to make a motion to amend the bylaws as to that.
To first reading, second reading, like we do on policies?
With bylaws, you don't have, with the policies are different than our bylaws. Our
I'd
bylaws do
wanna
not
check into
require
that.
two,
I'd wanna check into that.
yeah, but bylaws do not,
Legally. Bylaws are our setup, that's what sets
Right.
this government up.
right, but it,
Okay,
okay,
we should check it.
Okay.
And we absolutely should have a draft of the proposed ones before we vote on anything.
we can do that.
Draft of the proposed,
Proposed changes to the bylaws.
of the language of the, you have that, of the education program subcommittee, right?
Of
Is
the
that a
committees.
draft?
We need a copy of the
We need
bylaws.
it, we need it
Oh, bylaws,
in the
okay.
bylaws.
Oh, and you don't talk about the standing committees, it's just the bylaws, you mean?
In
Well,
our bylaws do not,
Our bylaws reference our committees, they reference the frequency
Okay.
of our meetings.
Okay.
They specifically say the first and
All right.
third Thursdays are
But they're very
school board
vague on
meetings.
how we
they're
run the
ve-
meeting.
right.
I
and
will
they're-
take a look at
and
the-
we,
And
and,
how we run the
Right.
meetings,
But
yes,
they're
but
also-
not when we meet. That's
Sure.
quite
That's right,
clear.
yeah.
but they also change, like, they change, there's exceptions for vacations and all of those things,
I
so.
will look at the bylaws and definitely come back to you with the recommendation for the changes.
Right, because it is specific in the
Yes.
bylaws when the school board meets. So if the school board meeting is no longer the first week,
Yep,
then we absolutely need to change
Okay.
the bylaws.
all right, I
Okay.
definitely will do that. I will do it with the language of our legal counsel.
Thank you, Jenny.
Yep,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay. Next up. It's a vote to authorize the superintendent to seek RFPs for strategic planning consultancy.
So moved.
Okay, moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we vote to authorize the superintendent to seek RFP for strategic planning consultancy. Any discussion?
Tell me again why we need this.
Just to get an independent view of assessing who we are, how we operate, talk to everyone, kind of listen to everyone, and gather the opportunity of listening to everyone, bring back to the board and say, here's what people, you know.
All due respect, isn't that what we pay you to do?
Of course. It just, this does more independent view. Like if I go out and bring to you, this is what people say, they say, well, that's my view. What they do is you
Okay.
know what I mean?
Yeah, I
So-
get it, I get it.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a funding question last meeting?
Yeah.
Yes, I emailed you the source of funding that I plan to take out.
Mhm.
I emailed you that?
Yep. Can you just talk about that? I
Sure.
read it, but.
Yeah, the source of funding that's there was allocated for performance standards, which no longer is there. So the intent is to have a planning and a new curriculum development using this of the same existing funding. And the balance, I showed it to you. I emailed to you.
And the proposed timeline, how is that gonna, who's
So
gonna decide
all I'm
that?
gonna do with this authority to go figure out who wants to do it and how much it costs. Then I'll come back to you. And then you tell me, what, you know, based on a vote, in that language, it will be a timeline, how it's gonna be done, how much it's gonna cost, and what it takes to do it. And then you guys have to, you can decide. So that's
Because
all-
we still choose, we get
Yes.
some, we get
Right.
some, we get
All
some
this does
bids,
is,
and we choose.
yes, all this does is gives me authority to ask people who wants to do it.
So
How-
basically just get bids in for this
Yes.
particular?
Yes.
Okay.
And then come to you and say, here's what I have, who wants to do it, how it's done, and how much it costs.
Yep.
And I've clearly identified where the money comes from, and I put a limitation on it for myself and you to know, but I plan to go below that. I'm gonna report back to you what's out there. All right?
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome,
Any,
Tara.
any further discussion? All those in favor? 10, 0, 0. Special Education District Regional Programming Proposal, the cold storage building renovations RFP for the board review and feedback. Update and detailed sources of funding and budget line items will be provided after the release of the agenda. So you got some of the information on the special education, on using that cold storage. It's not a vote tonight, it's just, you got information. Dr. Naaman would like some feedback on if you read the RFP and you looked at it, what your recommendations on certain things were. Even myself, I had a couple of questions, so, Sean, you have a
It was
question?
something that when I first saw it, it's about the replacing the pipe from the sewer pipe and the
Yeah.
plumbing.
Yeah,
I
so,
thought okay, go ahead.
yeah, my intent was, we had the Director of Operation, Director of SPED and Technology, really get an idea of what RFP should look like, intent. Then I was gonna email to you, give it to you, and then throughout the next week and so forth. I'm not asking to do that right now. To kind of figure out what are some of the questions you have, for me to go on through that and address them. So
So you want us to email them to you, or?
if it'd be the best, then I can collect it.
Yep, fine.
The intent I had was to give you what I couldn't do by the day I was doing agenda.
Okay.
So they did the work. You know, Shelley has some questions, you have some questions, and I'm sure others do. And if you guys send it to me, I really appreciate it, because I need to get the answers to it and make the changes, and the next time I report it back to you. That's all it is.
Like my
Just start
question,
the process.
like the question I had was why, for heating, why we were looking to go, heating and air, why don't we just use, heat pumps instead? I mean, that was
Yep.
kind of the question I was looking at, why spend money for both when we can look at heat pumps? So,
Because they don't always work.
When you,
they don't always work.
Well,
I
depends
noticed
on
on the
how cold it
timeout
is.
room,
It's good
Hopper.
I changed it.
secondary, but yeah.
It says timeout. Terry had a good point, and I totally agree with him. It changed to the learning space. Go ahead.
oh,
Did
the
you want to
learning
back the
space is the-
timeout? You want to put timeout
I-
back?
No, I'm fine with learning space. It's truly just a title to me. Just working in that type of environment, you never know when a child's going to need, if they have a behavioral outburst.
Right.
And then you have the safety of the other faculty and the other
Right.
students, or if they really just need to
Right.
take and hold themselves away from
Right.
the environment to relax. So that's fine, it's a title
Yeah.
to me. My question was though, when I was reading this, can someone just explain what a hopper window is? Is that just
Harper window? I think it's a,
hopper?
I think it's a
Two
brand.
white hopper windows placed high on the walls.
That's just let light through so you can't see in, you know?
Because they don't want to have privacy.
Right, I don't, are those breakable? Like, I've seen.
I think they're more like
Like
those
those?
that you have up there that are
Okay.
not breakable, like there's,
But
I
if
believe
you do
that's
me a
what it
favor,
is.
if you could,
that's great.
just send me
Cheryl?
all of it.
Yeah, I will. That's all I wanted.
Smaller windows that don't hide, that we can open ventilation, so the students have.
Thank
light
you.
in.
That's all I wanted to know.
No,
Thank
that's
you,
okay.
Cheryl.
No, send it all to me.
no, I was reading.
Because I'm looking at it, to be honest with you, as cold as you see it, so I'd like to respond to it, because you have the experts telling me what it is. I'm gonna take it through you for the next time come back. So, I appreciate it.
Katie?
I guess the whole timeout, safe space, whatever its name is, learning space, creeps me out. I'm sorry, it's just the whole idea that there's this room and there's no windows. Like, the other part is what about fire and, being able to get out? And you have
Yep.
this room, there's no windows.
Yep.
But the kids can't leave. And
If I may have Cheryl to answer that, sure? The fire safety, fire escape,
No, you can't lock the door.
Right. Making sure the student safety is the windows in there.
But
You're not familiar with these?
you're,
I am creeped out by the whole idea.
But you've not seen them or what? We have
I'll
them
have
here, every school
We
I've been
didn't
to
have them
has
at
them.
Valley. We didn't, SAD
Yeah.
13 did not have one,
I know.
Well, that's old school, probably.
but,
Yeah, we definitely gonna have to get the all, yeah.
okay, but that,
And that timeout room is right next to one of the fire
Walk down
Yeah,
the street
once-
here, you see
Very-
cars
Once you
down,
approve it, the
and
fire
teacher
department
guards
has to
at the door.
approve it, and the inspectors and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's a good point, though. I want to make sure to address the ADA and address all the fire and safety. So that's right there, and I definitely will make sure to address it.
Okay, so that was one of my worries.
Well, it'd have to be all up to standard.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, but I just,
But that's a good point, though.
the other part about the 3 dividers, so the kids are learning within this divider space?
Corey, can you answer that?
Yes, sure can. So, essentially, the way we've done this in our existing building is, so the students have their own individual space, and so they're not dividers in the sense that they can't see each other. They're dividers so that they have their own space, so they can keep their schoolwork and things. So, they're set up so that, you know, air flows freely. It's really gonna be open. So, you know, the size of the dividers is just, we put a number in there.
Sure.
We've, in fact, at Reach, we've had some that were full walls and some that were shorter walls, and it just really depends on, you know, how the makeup of the building ends up. Because it's hard to imagine right now because there's stairwells. But the concept is it's open, so that they'll have a center space where they can work together if they're having, you know, a combined lesson, but they have, when they're ready to work individually on their own stuff, they have their own space, they, you know, have access to things that only they have access to, and other students don't enter into that stuff, so.
There's a window at each of the spaces too,
Okay.
so they're not, they don't feel like they're isolated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Jenny?
I have probably not necessarily questions about the RFP itself, but are we at a space where we're moving forward with this RFP where we've not actually approved a programmatic change? I mean, we haven't said, yes, go ahead, we want to make this change to bring the kids back. So I'm afraid we're like cart before the horse here.
Well, I think, I mean, we can take a vote on that. I know a lot of the RFP is to get an idea so that we have an idea of what we're getting ready to do and to make sure it's feasible. And you can't even know exactly how much it is. I mean, we can decide. I think, the recommendation was, because I know we talked about this, when did we first put in the one over the Reach? When did you start Reach, Corey?
That was 5 years ago.
3.5 years ago?
Yeah.
How many?
3.5.
Really?
So, I mean, the original concept was to be able to bring as many kids back as we can, and this will, based on what we got at the last meeting, in the long run, it'll save us money.
Jenny, I think you have a good point, if I may, to add to it, because I think you have a good point that we should come forward and say, here's what we propose our programming, and here's how we propose to use a facility to address it. And my hope is when we finish strategic planning, I can include it to that, or come back to the board and do the programming. If we have missed it, the intent was to have a building first, but I think your point is really well taken, so I'm going to study it and to come to you with the programming intent that clearly says what we intend to do without a building though, just the intent. And then submit that through you, through the committee and through you. So that's a great idea.
I like that, thank you. But part of that proposal would be the facility cost as well, if there needs to be new facilities or renovated facilities. And while I understand in theory, this should save us money over the long run, there will be upfront costs. No builder is going to say, I know you're gonna catch up with me next year when you start saving money. So we're looking at several $100,000 likely of renovation costs that are currently unbudgeted and would need to be identified. And that's a substantial change to our budget. So I don't feel that I'm in any position to be moving ahead with that without having seen a full proposal or any projections on how that would be funded upfront.
If I may,
Go ahead.
we did a presentation in terms of the cost analysis.
I have seen that.
And I think through that presentation, we did an analysis of what our existing cost is, and the existing cost, so let me just get, if I may, Corey answer that question.
Sure. So just one point of clarity, we addressed that question 4 years ago when we started to do this. The issue we have today is that we've really outgrown our capacity to do it. So that's where we came up with this. We needed additional space. So what we did is we did a study on what we budgeted for existing students that we could program for, and what that's going to cost us for this school year only. What we are going to spend, it's already budgeted, it's already approved. How can we use that money differently so that we don't have to do it again next year? And so that's really what the proposal is designed for, is we expect to spend this $377 on the low end, could be higher. In fact, in the past 3.5 years, it's gone upwards of 500, down to 325, but it really depends on the district that those students are serviced in, because that number changes. I based all that numbers just on the baseline that they could bill for. And so the 377 number was, we were looking at, if we took this money and spent it to do this, if we could do it for less money, and then we'd have that going forward. The capacity for the space originally, when we put it together, the original proposal, we anticipated 4, possibly 5. As we finished this RFP, we were able to even figure it out to make it work for 6 kiddos, which means there's an additional, on average, $100,000 that we could conceivably, if we didn't have somebody we were sending out, that we could actually also bring back kids, which was one for if we could take on kids from other districts. So, and that's income versus an expenditure. In terms of, where the money is, we're not going to be taking money to build something and also pay for those kids out. That's why we're having the process to decide when, and there's this time. I mean, as you know, every single day there's a charge for those kids to be out every day. And so part of this process is trying to find out what we want to do, how can we do it, what's it going to cost, and can we get to that point? That's really where we're at.
When the original building was converted for the REACH program, was it converted with the intent of having all of the kids who were out of district come back?
No, it was, so the idea for the original program was born with a kiddo that moved into the district that was out. And when I first got here, this will be my 7th school year, we had upwards of like 18, 19 kiddos out. That's an enormous amount of money. And up until that point, there was the state of Maine had made some significant changes in how they did seed money and charging back to districts. So up to that point, we hadn't been hit with that, but we were about to. So we made some changes. We put some structures in for the majority of the kids. So we have a behavior program that runs K through 12, but there's still a small population of kids that can't be serviced in a public school building. And so when we got this kiddo that came in that was moved in from another district that was already in an outplacement, I said, well, what can we do differently? Fortunately, the high school had just ended their alternative high school program, so the space was available. Essentially, it was, for us, it was a matter of taking a space that was already classroom space, changing it so that it worked for the population, because, instead of servicing 40 kids there like they were doing for the alternative high school, we're serving 5 to 7 kids depending on their specific needs. And so the problem the reason why this new problem exists is we've got a group of students that are, as they age, they're going up to junior high, high school, but we still have very many elementary age kids that are having regulation difficulties, and we can't have them in the same space. So we have some kiddos out that are at high school age that we could service here. We had 2 move in this year from other districts. That means that the decision was already made by somebody else to pay for them outside of the district, but they moved to us, and so we immediately inherit that cost. And so that in of itself is roughly $250,000 for a kid, for 2 kids. So I thought maybe we could try and do something different, but we can't do something different in the space we have, because we can't have first graders and 9th graders trying to do it in the same space.
Terry.
Can we clarify, this is no way is gonna change our responsibility under the law to possibly have, find the best resource for a student. May involve them going out.
It's entirely possible, so the state of Maine statute requires that
So
we
let's
have-
be, I just wanna make
Yes.
it very clear
Yep.
that we're not gonna, this is all very, very hypothetical on terms of we're gonna save this and save that. We don't know that. You don't know what the needs of that individual kid in the IEP or the PET or whatever. And they may in fact need to be placed somewhere else, and so we're not gonna reap those savings.
That's entirely possible.
So I guess
We-
I'm a little
Terry-
hesitant to spend money on something that we don't have
Yeah,
a real foundation of what the needs are,
I just want to clarify.
what the
We-
impact.
Yeah, which is a really good point, Ted. The point is, we already have existing students we service. Those existing students we identified in that last report are the ones that are outside servicing, and we're paying them like 80, 90,000 right now. So we budgeted for that, and you paying for that all the way through the end of the year. And the hope is, if we can bring those kids back to us and be able to do that, I think that was the intent. But you're absolutely right, we're gonna continue servicing kids, we can't deliver
I just
service
think
to.
we need to be very, very careful
Yes.
in proceeding this, because I know there are other districts who have tried to do this exact same thing, but the lawsuit they got handed to them by a student's parents or whoever just was
Yeah.
astronomical. And they shut down some big programs in districts not very far from here
Right.
for trying to do this exact same thing. I don't understand why we need to do this.
The only thing I can tell you is that the students that we have been servicing for the last 3.5 years has saved the district close to $2.5 million, and that means that the students that are left benefit from that. So there's a reason why we do it, it's because we're required to, as we can.
Yeah, I get that, but I mean, go forward with some new
Well,
thing.
let me see if I can clarify something that I heard, so what I think is what I'm hearing, because these kids are aging out basically to the program we currently have. And they're aging into a high school level where we've still got kids that are younger, and we've got kids that are older, and we can't service them both, that age group, together anymore because of the older ones. And I think what I'm hearing is, these kids are the ones we already service here, and we've had to send them out in the last year or so because they've aged out of the younger program, and we're gonna be offering the same services we have, but now being able to do it with the junior high and high school. Is that what I'm hearing? Is that, I wanna make sure that I'm,
In theory, yes.
okay.
But, like, the part that we don't get to control is, like, say, the 2 new students that just moved in, one that's a 9th grader, one that's a 10th grader, that decision was already made, our budget was already in place, another school district placed them out, they moved in our district, whether we budgeted for it or not, we're
We're
gonna
on the
spend that
hook.
money for that placement. The difference is if we are able to separate our programs, whether it's in a new building or someplace else in the district, we can bring those students back and not bear that cost. So that's what we've done since the program started.
Katie?
I guess I have a couple. One is that it's well and good when we're having an exchange like this, but I wanna see like numbers written down, because we get that it's ironic that the money we would be saving on sending kids out is the same money that it would cost to fix the building. But there's also costs, there's other costs that will need to be taken in, that we do have to find a way in our budget to do, to help. We've already made a budget for this year, and then, yes, we'll save on having them come back, but there are costs. These students will still need teachers, they'll need ed techs, they'll need, custodians, they'll need,
Right, but I think part of what he's saying is, we just had 2 kids move into the district we didn't even budget for.
Right,
that
and
are
then
out
he
of
was saying
district.
too, is that they're gonna have to stay out this year, so that they're null and void, there's nothing we can do about it.
Well, I think that's part of and correct me if I'm wrong on saying this, is if this can move forward, okay, they can be brought back halfway through the year. It doesn't, if we can move
Right.
forward and get the, if we got the building up and going, if, everything takes time, obviously. But even if we could save a half a year on it, that's how
Right,
I've
but
understood
I
it.
guess I would need to know, like, what our true, and I asked this last time.
It was
What's
in the
our
packet.
true savings, like, end all be all? And I know that you had said that's really hard to find out, but I have a really hard time voting $300,000 without knowing that we're getting our money back.
We submitted a cost analysis, I think that was there, that gave you exactly what the costs
The
were.
last,
I looked
Yeah,
at that,
yeah.
but it
Yeah, I
wasn't,
prefer that too.
it
It
wasn't.
wasn't sufficient.
Say it again, I'm sorry?
That wasn't it, because that said the cost of building the building, but it didn't take into everybody else that needs, you gotta have fuel to heat the building, you've gotta have additional attach, you've gotta have, custodians, you've gotta have, kids with they're gonna have different bus schedules, there's a myriad of roles that other people are gonna have to take on, whether somebody else needs to get hired, somebody else's role changes. I mean, there's a lot of other things, and to just
Sure.
say, all right, we're just gonna hope for the best is really,
No,
it's a
I would
lot.
do, because your point is well taken, as I hear, we will do a analysis of detail and making the exact operational costs
Right.
included to do a comparison to it. So your point is well taken, so I will do that and
Okay,
present.
because I think it would be a lot
Oh,
easier
you-
to be able to compare
Well,
apples to
Your
apples.
point is well taken, so I will do that. I think my intent is to do it, and I appreciate your point, though.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I would also encourage anyone that has any further questions or anything for feedback on any of this, regardless of what it is, based on both the RFP and all that stuff, send the feedback on so that they have whatever information that you feel you need in your next packet.
Yep, I just
Right.
think you have
Yeah.
good points, like the
So,
way you.
yeah.
Right, and as Jenny says, before we submit an RFP or start really looking at that,
Oh.
should we first be able to vote
Well,
that we think this is?
Yeah, I'm
Right,
gonna do that.
We haven't submitted anything or anything, it's
Right.
just working on it to get the idea. But you're right, I mean, as far as doing that, and that's
Because
why.
it's a lot of work if we decide as a board we don't wanna.
Yeah. I'm gonna do two things, the points you made, which is a revisit the cost analysis, including operation, apple to apple, and also Jenny's good point about programming, what impacts it has for change, programming, revision, and impact, and also detailed that. So those are 2 points.
Awesome.
Any other ones, I'd really appreciate if you could send me the feedback.
Any further discussion? Okay, new business. State of Maine Board of Education meeting, December 12th, 2018, at the Fairfield Primary. Dr. Naaman?
Yes, the Maine State Board of Education, and I just talked to them today as well, they will have their board meeting at Fairfield Primary. And so, thanks to Lori, thanks, because we're in the top list.
Are they gonna show up with a check?
Well, we're hoping.
So,
We're
thank,
having a meeting way upstairs.
I was trying to figure out where they'd have it, so.
thanks to Lori, we submitted a tentative plan. Basically, we don't have parking.
Yes.
So we
is a
submitted a
good
plan. We submitted a plan that they will show up at the high school. We transport them to the Fairfield Elementary. We submitted a plan that they're gonna meet at the,
Terry, we gotta
first
work
floor.
this thing,
And
We're done
We
with the
invited-
asbestos?
Yeah,
That's good.
they're down
we
in the
invited,
gym.
and we
man. Tomorrow
asked,
I'll be at the door handing out the masks.
actually, Lori had a good suggestion. She's gonna take them to the dungeons.
Oh, yeah, when they were going to the basement because it's the only place that can happen.
Right.
So
Get there in the cafeteria.
we're gonna do a tour. We're also gonna do a presentation in regard to who we are, what we've done. Use the opportunity as,
You might
As
want to
a
check to see if there are anybody that's
celebration.
handicapped.
This sounds
But-
funny to me.
they ask me,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
keep asking
Carry
us.
'em up
You
the
better,
stairs.
you better make sure there's no
I
handicapped
hope they
person
bring
on
a
the
big
board,
check.
because there's no.
So they're asking for it. The board will meet. They've already scheduled. I talked to her today. The board is serious about it. They'll reimburse us for all the costs. And I'll figure out a parking. Maybe I would just have them park in
Be
the
like, what's that?
Fairfield House of Pizza, and then they have to walk. But we could do either.
Around the park.
So we have a plan we submitted. I talked to her today. The chair of the board and vice chair are going to email me back, and they appreciated the fact that we're willing to host them.
I think it's a good idea, because then they'll get to see the building on their own,
Can they
too.
park anywhere else?
And
at
maybe they'll
Fairfield?
come up with the money a little quicker.
Down the streets, you can park all around
Yeah, you
it.
can park around the park. You know.
You're gonna
Yeah,
get
you can.
20 plus the news.
Oh, yeah, around the
news
park,
media.
they can if they have to.
Channel 6.
The library,
How many people?
Channel 6 is coming
about
too.
20, because this is for the Board of Education's meeting. the
You're gonna get
normal-
Channel 6, 5, or, TV will be there.
Yeah, it's for
They
the Board.
bring one of them big checks from TV.
They'll probably do it, take a picture.
Just make sure they have to walk all the way to the top of the building and then all the way to the bottom of the building. and-
Publishers clearing.
Okay.
Dig deep.
Oh, man.
So, that's what I wanted to share with you.
So, all right. Next on the agenda is the revised English language learners presentation.
So,
Mrs. Herson is.
yes, we have a recommendation to revise and begin to take a vote on revising our existing policy, and thanks to Roberta doing her work. We wanted to give you a presentation first before seeking that, so thank you.
I think I handed out to each of you,
We scared her away.
They're not coming, Lori, I changed their mind.
I'd just like to note, the chair, I'd like to make a note that this print is so small that there's no way we can read this. And I think that's a tactic.
Are you saying we're old, Ron?
Well, I don't know if you get a kindergarten
That
type
was-
of
my
read that.
slides look like this.
Oh, okay. Ours are a little small.
I apologize.
That's all
Trying
right.
to
It's
conserve.
okay.
So what you have before you is the revised policy relating to English learners. I think it was formerly Program for Students with Limited English Proficiency, and it had loud plain in there. That is not a term that the state or the feds are using anymore. We reference those children as English learners. So that's about the substance of the change in the policy itself, where that phrase is substituted out. A loud plan is something that we're required by federal law to have in place. Loud was it's a Chinese family that sued the San Francisco public schools, and there was a Supreme Court ruling in their favor in 1974 because it violated those students' rights and their ability to freely access or fully access the public education because no services were provided to help the students acquire English and participate in the curriculum. So we do have the loud plan in place. That was also updated upon recommendation by the DOE. The DOE person is April Perkins. She visited my office last April as a follow-up to perhaps some concerns that were voiced regarding our service. So she came and met, and we had a good meeting. Our consultant was with us, Rebecca Stouffer, who works with our tutor in the district and coordinates some of the services and does all the required testing. So as far as the plan goes, the DOE's recommendations were to update some of the forms that are in the plan itself as an appendix. We updated the table of contents and some of the language in, say, what was a home language survey, which is the initial identifier when a student presents himself or herself to the school to register and enroll. Every student receives the home language survey where the student and the family completes, and it's meant to identify if there is another language in the home, if English is not the primary language, and trying to sort out if potentially this student needs some extra supports to access their education. So it's gone from home language survey to language use survey. And if you look in the actual loud plan, there's a little table at the bottom. So a parent may, in an effort maybe to decline the service or not receive this identification, not fully identify the language that might be the primary language or the first language the child understood. So for staff to have some input as far as do you observe the child having difficulties or speaking another language. So if there are staff concerns, that's noted, and we can at least administer the screener, because the child is the one whose civil rights are protected for good reason. So we administer the access for ELS, and the student receives a score, and from that score, our consultant essentially writes a prescription, if you will. And I have an example of what that might look like in the handout. The parent can decline the service, but the identification is housed in Infinite Campus, and the state can see that, and it's our responsibility to make sure that the child is assessed every year and the parent can continue to decline. Also, those identifications relate to our subsidy. And last year, I think we received about $22,000 and some change in subsidy, which did come close to meeting the cost necessarily, but it is important that we fully identify those learners. So I just had for you in that handout a copy of the policy. And within the LAU plan, there's something called the Language Acquisition Committee, and those are school-based, involving the principal, counselor, the consultant in this case, because we have a person delivering the services that it is a Tech 3, an Ed Tech 3. So that person is not certified, but they work under the supervision of the certified consultant. And of course, the parents and the children and the staff that work. And they review the results of the assessment, and they develop a plan and a program for that child to become successful. So I've just listed some of the responsibilities and the parties involved, but there's also some new needs. And if you look at the last bullet in this, that we need to ensure that official communication to parents is conducted in a language that they can understand. And that's one of the shifts that's happening in our school community, and I'll get to that in a second. But so with that, we are required to translate all official communication from student handbooks. With the high school, it would be program of studies, report cards, and all those items there that they represent, code of conduct. So an open house, student-teacher conferences coming up, all that communication needs to be translated into a language that's accessible to the parent. And the stance of the DOE has not been that we can run it through a Google translator, because that doesn't necessarily pick up the subtlety of the language. So we have paid a person beginning last year to, and particularly in Clinton Elementary was our first area of need, to go through all those documents and translate them. And then also we need to pay for interpreter services at these meetings, and any time the parent wishes to come into the school and have a conversation, so they can fully understand what we are doing in service to their child and answer their questions that they have. So that's what the Language Acquisition Committee does. The next slide, if you could see it. I've tried to capture the history. I'm beginning with the 2013-2014 school year, went back in our system, and I have some ratios here, if you will. The first number represents those students identified through that survey of non-English home language. So 3 out of 13 that year. 2014-15, 2 out of 5. The next year, 5 out of 9. 16-17, 11 out of 20. And that was a bit of an anomaly that year for us, in that 20 is a pretty high number. We had family refugees move into our district originally from Burundi, and they brought with them 7 children. And they didn't remain in our district very long, but we were making those adjustments, because that was the first time we felt the children were presenting not able to communicate with us, and nor were their parents. And that is common in other areas of the state, but it's becoming a new trend for us here in the district. So 17-18, we had 11 out of 17 essentially non-English speaking. And then this year, 8 out of 13 non-English home language.
We're not sure, I don't understand the ratio, what's the,
11 of 17 have identified through that survey that English is not the primary.
11 or 17?
11. 17 total. The bottom number is those identified as English learners in our Infinite Campus system.
okay.
Okay, so if you look at the second number, those are the totals. And again, these are not big numbers. And what I was trying to illustrate is the number of identified ELs has not shifted too much, but their level of need
Okay,
has
so-
changed.
So the first number is the level, the students who need services.
Yes.
And the second
Well-
number is the,
And not necessarily, English could be a language understood in the home, and the student could be assessed, and the scale is, say, 1 to 5, and they could have a proficiency score of 4. So we're remediating or trying to assist with maybe the cultural subtleties, but the student can communicate in English, their parents can. However,
That first number, nobody at the house speaks English at all.
okay, that's what we
Right.
were trying to get.
but
Yeah.
they're all identified because of varying degrees of proficiency in English.
Okay.
So,
alright,
so
yeah.
the shift is to children presenting where they speak, they do not speak English at all. And we're having to adjust because that's a more intensive level of care, I guess, if you will, and support. And
Especially
those-
that piece where we have to work with the parents too, you know,
Yes.
because nothing's understood.
We need to bring in other services. So, so if you flip to the next slide, the results of assessment are determine the level of support. Student must achieve an overall score of 5 to exit the program. So once a child is identified, and even if the parent declines service, a program of any kind, we still are required by the state to administer that assessment. And to exit the program, they need to hit that level 5, or they will continue to be identified in our system as English learners. Historically, newly enrolled students indicating need for access for ELS have scored in the 3 to 4 range, and that's what I was trying to illustrate with those ratios. Now students are scoring 1 or 2, and it takes about an average of 5 to 7 years to achieve, if you're coming in at that level, to achieve the 5 to exit the program. So on the last slide, I've taken a little screenshot of what our consultant has set up and redacted out all the information. This is just a little clip of it. And you know, interestingly, it's identified Spanish for these 3 particular children as home language, where the proficiency score is a 1 through the WIDA Access for ELS. So the amount of time determined based on that score is listed in this last column, and that is the ed tech doing pull-out sessions at this intensive level of support and meeting with that child individually to assist them in their language, English language development, in addition to the consultant working with our teaching staff, because these children are also, in the context of the classrooms, trying to learn and access the curriculum. So this is a kind of a bare bones model that we have right here. There are resources in some situations where there's a tutor in the classroom with the children as they're learning their math and their science. But right now we are triaging, if you will, with this one ed tech. A year ago we had half-time ed tech 3 position. You added to the budget last year and moved to a full-time ed tech 3. But I think given our trend right now, there aren't enough hours in this person's week. She's working, the tutor is working 35 hours a week and it's district-wide. And, you know, we recently had a few enrollments in the senior high school where children are in a similar situation. You know, as far as funding for this, our October 1 count is coming. And last year, say, I think 8 enrolled after that October 1 date. So the subsidy might not be there next year to help us so much given, you know, on any given day, just as in special education and students with their needs, they arrive as they are and we serve them. So the other part, aside from, you know, I was in Portland this morning with a DOE presentation on the legal rights of English learners and our responsibilities and civil rights. The DOE is also going to be releasing new report cards, if you will, if you can remember from several years ago. So they've revamped them, and I think you have a copy of it in this packet. But there'll be school profile information, but there are something they're labeling as performance indicators, and there are a few new ones. Chronic absenteeism, which we spoke about last spring, which you know, truancy is part of that, but it's all absences, whether they're excused or not. So that's one of the indicators. Of course, academic achievement in ELA, math, grad rates, but also progress in English language proficiency. So the state's specifically going to be looking at how we serve this particular population. And it is growing, and I think, you know, locally, certainly, I was at a meeting earlier this week, and the superintendent from Augusta Schools was there, and they were talking about a very large population that they are experiencing right now, and that trend might move our way, and we need to be able to respond with some services. So, you know, some of the countries represented, Guatemala and Honduras, China. We've had students from Portugal. We most recently have a student from Thailand, Iraq. So, you know, that's where we're trending right now. Also, attached to the back of that LAU plan, I think it would be worth your while to read, is a letter from the commissioner. And he essentially outlines our responsibilities as a school district. But one thing that is fairly new, or at least I hadn't considered, is serving exchange students. They are also eligible to access these services in our schools, though you know, they might be part of a program or international students. So that is something to pay attention to. And then there are other pieces regarding, you know, things that we may or may not ask for. And immigration status is one that we may not. So.
I'd be all for higher taxes of employers and employees, English as a second language people, and, no, just kidding.
So basically, we had a conversation about planning for what if in case this happens. And the second part, I think, Roberta, thank you so much for all the work. The second half of the superintendent report, she was gonna, I had the information there, where it shows where the money could come from. Right now, what we have, if the need goes up, that, right below, on standing committee reports, in your agenda, if you look at there, it says additional information. And I just wanted to be clear with you, and I talked with Tara and Roberta and others, in case that happens, I just want to tell you where could be the money that we could take, how much we have, how much we need, and just basically give you a backup plan, that's all. So I appreciate all the work. We need to approach it as a professional development, teaching teachers, reach out to the family, and also prepare in regard to the services. So I appreciate all the work. We're ready to do it, and we gave you the plan for it.
So what we need is we need a motion to accept policy IHBEA as presented by the policy committee and Mrs. Hersel.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Jenny, seconded by Katie. Any discussion? All those in favor? 9, 0, 0.
Can you vote from that?
No. You cannot. All right, next up on the agenda, is the vote to accept, the recommendation of the policy committee to revise section 5 of the M.S.A.D 49 bylaws to 5 years. Let me give you a little bit of a background on that. Several years ago, it was brought up that, the chairman's position, should be a 5-year term instead of a 3-year term. It never got updated actually in the bylaws, and we wanted to have full transparency. That's what that's all about. So if you are on board for the to make it 5 years, if not, then we have to make a change. So,
So currently it is 3 years.
yeah, it was changed. There was an actual vote taken several years ago, and I think it was, Ron, do you remember? I mean, Ron and I both, it was 6 or 7, it was quite a while. Yeah, it was your first term. So it was quite a while ago, but it never got actually put into the written bylaw, which is why we have to, in full transparency, vote it to the change.
That's actually why I would not vote for this without it being presented written. Similarly with changes for the policies or with the bylaws regarding standing committees, regarding the time that we meet. I don't think we should be voting on any of those changes to our bylaws without it presented as a written document.
Okay, we can do that.
All the changes at once.
At one.
Do
at
all
one-
the
on-
changes.
So do you want to table it,
anytime-
Jen? Is that what
At
you
any
want?
time that we're changing our bylaws or a policy, it should be in writing. We should see what we're voting
Okay.
for.
Let's,
I'm
It's
sorry,
not-
so, Jane, I just want to make sure I understand. So you're saying to, what are you, you're saying to present entire bylaws?
Yes.
Absolutely. If we're proposing.
What it is and then change it?
Yeah, with
Okay.
strikeouts,
All right.
however
Okay.
it's proposed.
Even if we had a
Old
copy
form,
of
new
it, we could
form.
strike it out. Yeah.
Right.
So I would take the existing language and then show you what the change is.
Absolutely.
And a section, like say.
Sure.
And then, since I have the opportunity, I would do that with the education subcommittee.
Right.
yep,
All of
yep.
But
we can do
Yeah,
that.
you can make all
Can I
the
just
changes
make a
at
comment?
once, and that way we can.
Yes.
I just, one of the primary reasons that we changed it was that either people couldn't serve as chair or didn't want to serve as chair.
Right.
And so you, sometimes you get limited on so we
Right.
just said, if a person's there and they want to stay there, let
We
them
made
stay.
it 5 to,
So I'll present it to you next meeting, as you said.
but we wanted to make sure we had full disclosure, which is why we're doing this. So, yeah,
Sounds
we can
good.
do that.
Present it to you that way.
So will we need to revote then for chair? Because currently, we're out of compliance with.
Wouldn't the vice chair just take over?
The vice chair
That's
will
not,
take over.
it's not written in our bylaws that we have a
Right.
succession plan.
Yeah.
So we can,
We'll just keep,
So
let's,
we-
how about we
we
make a
would need
motion, just keep it like it is till our next meeting where we can vote on the actual bylaw.
is that your
All the
motion?
That's my motion,
The way Jenny recommended,
yeah.
with the language there, you know.
Just a copy of the
what-
bylaws would be enough.
Sure.
So we can make
Yeah.
amendments
Okay.
as we go.
And
That's
be
your mo-
specific which section is going to be changed, or,
I think the whole bylaws should be presented if we're going to
Right.
be making a change.
yep,
Okay,
Okay.
so we have a motion. Do I have a s- It's been moved and seconded that we update, the table this issue until we
And
get an
continue with the
updated and
current
continue
chair.
as things are until the update. Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? 10, 0.
Bring this table to the first meeting, I'm just
Good question.
You know,
We-
you know what I need
You went
is
to
I need a
bathroom.
stack
We're
of
gonna
things
call
here
you if
just
you
to
vote.
throw at.
from bathroom, you could have called. Motion, put a motion right from, we could hear you. You know, the bathroom is right next door, you could just call for a motion right there.
try to shove it through without me.
Are we all done?
Okay, no, not yet. Just, okay. We're getting there. We have, so we basically have done, under the standing committees, Roberta's presented, the
Yes.
policies presented. So the next item, is a presentation, by Lori Faulkner, our Director of Technology, for the Infinite Campus Resources.
Do you guys want to take 5 minutes break so she can set it up?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
So, as Ron and I were talking earlier, he asked about homework hotline, which is kind of archaic. So another process that we've looked into is scheduling parent-teacher conferences online rather than calling the offices and things like that. So the junior high and high school is where we started. So there is a program, it is $100 a year per school, which is very reasonable. It's a lot of work to set it up in the first place, but after that, it's not so bad. So we have created links off the junior and senior high school websites called Parent-Teacher Conference signups. Okay. Now this is, I'm going to preface and say, it's Dr. Naiman's idea.
Can I just add this? What we're going to do is revise the website. There will be a link called Parents Academy, and we have a license for YouTube. So within the Parents Academy, you will see, for example, Laurie with this. She's going to be her face with the title, and she speaks, about how to use Infinite Campus. And it's going to be Cheryl, for example, talking about how to safely kids needs to be entering the bus. We're going to get the principals talking about, so everyone's going to be in YouTube and YouTube Star. We have to see how many favorites you get. But we're going to have the links as a Parent Academy, all the resources within the YouTube. And this is one that Lori did to show you example. Did you?
Not made for TV. So I did do this in my office today. So
You have nothing but love from us all.
It's not TV, or it's YouTube.
We implemented the use of an online parent-teacher conference scheduling software. The following video will walk you through the steps of scheduling a conference. This video will walk you through setting up your parent-teacher conference. You click on the link provided for you. When you open up your link, you're going to see the name of the school as well as all of the teachers that are available for conferences. I'm going to go ahead and select 3 different teachers. And I'm going to hit submit. It's going to ask me if I've selected these 3 conferences for 1 student or more than 1 student. For this example, I'm going to select 1 student. I have to put in the student's information and have to put in my information, as well as an email address, and confirm my email address. I can either choose to put a phone number in or not. Here, I'll hit submit. I'll get a thank you for registering and informing me that I need to check my email to continue the confirmation of the conferences. I'm going to open my email, and here I have an email from PTC Fast. Thanking me for registering. I am going to now click on this access link. From here, I will see the names of the 3 teachers I selected, and I will see all of the available times for conferences. I will select the times that I'm interested in doing conferences for my child, Bill Brown. If you had multiple students selected, their names would be listed across here as well. Then I can do confirm selections and exit. At this point, I have now successfully scheduled my parent-teacher conference for Lawrence Junior or Senior High School.
So that's as easy as it is. And then you actually receive an email back giving you your times. of your conferences. So that you know exactly what's going on. The teachers, we've set it up as well, that the teachers get an email the Monday before, 2 days before, and a day before. And I've sent each of the teachers a link so that they can get back into it at any point and they can see who is scheduled, who hasn't scheduled, so they can maybe approach a parent or a student to get their parents in there to have a conference. In the past, they've had to wait until the morning of the conference to find out who they're meeting with. So this is where we've started the process.
Is there a reminder email sent to parents?
Yes. Yep, they'll get the email as well, yeah. So, and I talked to some other people, and they said that they've used this in other districts, and they really, really liked it from a parent point of view, so.
And if parents don't have access to emails?
They can call the office, and the offices have access to this exact calendar, and they can get in, and they can put a parent in, and then the teacher will see that there's a parent has taken that slot. If you've taken the slot, it just shows unavailable, listed in the teacher for that particular time. No one's information is listed.
So you're also gonna do one in Spanish and Farsi and Pashto?
Farsi I will do.
So that's where we're trying to move to, is more of an online presence.
Is this available for signups now? Has this,
Monday, the website is there. I think the letters are going home Monday, and they can start doing it. They can register. And so back on the website, you can either watch my video to see how to do it, or you can just click on it if you already understand how the process works.
So can a teacher go in and make themselves unavailable, say for 15 minutes if they want a dinner break or
Yes.
whatever, so they can make themselves unavailable?
When I did it, I had to do every single teacher, and I did the high school, but I think I did the junior high. One of them I didn't know at the time, so at the time.
Right.
And then it was either I could go back and manually do every single one, or I could say to the teachers, you need to go in and do every single one. But then the people in the office, they can see exactly.
Right.
So they could see if a teacher, as I was told in the high school, you might have a teacher who doesn't take a lunch or a supper break.
Right.
So they have that opportunity. Any other questions?
Great job, Ms.
Oh,
Brown.
this is great.
Not really?
Nice.
Now everybody knows who does the robocall.
That's right.
I will say Lori gave us a presentation of all in policy of, I'm sure not all she does, but a variety of things that she does, and moving to a more of an online presence is going to give her some more work, but I think in the long run it'll make things easier. So she gave a great presentation using Infinite Campus and things, using it more too. So thank you, Lori.
Thank you very much, Ms. Brown.
Does anybody have any other questions for Lori? Okay. Superintendent's report, you received his report in your packet. If you have any questions at this time that, for Dr. Naaman, for his report, or we'll also move into, part of his report is also reports from schools that you received. If you will, on your packet, you received your culture and climate reports, and if you have any questions based on anything that you read from any of the schools, or have any questions at that time.
I just wanted to, I like the idea, so if you don't mind, I like the, if you could, each principal, just briefly talk about that. We'll start with Albion. Lori?
Oh, sure. In my report, I just said a few words about some changes that we put into place for our Student of the Month. As you might know, in many of our schools, we have a Student of the Month, and in Albion, we do an assembly with a character message. We pick a theme having to do with a character trait that we think is essential for students to learn about. This month, it was enthusiasm. And so with great enthusiasm, we presented Student of the Month certificates to the students. And what we've added this year as a special treat is we're going to have a pizza lunch with the Student of the Month students and all the teaching staff. And we did that this week on Wednesday, and the kids really enjoyed it. It was just the opportunity to sit with staff and have a great conversation, and that's what makes school special.
And Fairfield Primary?
For Fairfield Primary, I wanted to tell you about a grant opportunity that I applied for this spring that extends into December. Our school was accepted for this grant that I wrote to the DOE, and it was on high-quality classrooms and inclusion practices for 4-year-olds. And I was very interested in us taking part in the grant because some of the ways that our 0 to 4 population is cared for in the state is going to start to change. And we will probably, over time, assume more responsibility for helping special ed students. It's because the contract that the state has for child development services is starting to ebb away. So the great thing about this DOE grant was that it offered us professional development for all of the pre-K staff. We formed a team. We're going to come up with a plan. And I have the regional manager from KV Cap on board on the team, the KV Cap instructional coach, Corey, Kathy, myself, all the pre-K teachers, including Clinton. And we've already concluded 30 hours of training this spring, and we have 30 hours slated for this fall. Each of the classrooms this spring received $1,500 to spend in each classroom in Fairfield and Clinton. And this fall, each classroom will also receive another $1,500 to spend on these ideas that we're learning about through our training. Our training is done through Maine Roads to Quality, which is held through the University of Southern Maine. It's great for us to be a part of it because it's a new requirement having to do with Chapter 124, the new basic standards put in place last year for pre-Ks. And so that is a training avenue, and it's also a registry so that all parents and anyone in the state can go to it and look to see where there are high quality educators listed and high quality programs. And I'm very glad to say that you'll find our names there and our staff, and so we're working towards, having the very best quality preschool program in our district.
Thank you, Larry. Benton?
Okay, so I'd like to highlight a few items here, some new things I wasn't able to put into this report because it's happened since I wrote it. But I think what's been exciting for the students, we're just coming back to school, but we've been able to put 2 new playground pieces out on both the right side, which is for our younger students, and then for our older students. So those were put up in the last week. I think it was Monday. It was the first day that they were able to plan on them. So they're thoroughly enjoying that, and that's thanks to a lot of fundraising and a lot of just work that our PTO has done, our student council, and the school fundraisers, because we do have a high participation rate in those fundraising activities, and it goes right back to the students. So a couple quick things. Audio Body actually came out of the school, so we're able to kind of work together to bring them on. They did a concert for each of the schools, so they did 5 concerts total, 2 for Benton, and then 1 for Montgomery County and Clinton. They did an evening show raising money for, I think it was a drama program in high school, and I guess the community absolutely loved that, and it was a great kickoff to the school year. So, and that was in continuation of what we put together last fall when we had the bubble plan. It was similar, kind of just a kickoff to get the students excited for school. Our PTO, I'm blown away at our PTO is just incredible. We have huge participation, and we've come a long way, but even the past few years, I feel, in terms of organization and what they've been able to do for our community. So we had a grandparents' day, and we filled. I think we have 1 theater reserved. It was full. We had to open up a second theater. That's free to grandparents and their children. We had our welcome back barbecue. We had, our staff was there running that, cooking started our Benton School Council. We had our first meeting on Monday, and we had about 18 people were there, and it was a very productive time. I'm really excited about this opportunity, and it kind of brings up a different group of community members. We have a PTO, and we kind of work conjunctly together, and we're able to talk through a lot of different things at our first meeting. We're going to meet again on Monday, October 1st at 3:30. Of course, it's open to the public. And we have a couple extracurricular activities starting out our running club. We have about 34 students participating in that. We have Jay Dangler, gym teacher, Lydia Whiting. They're running that in the morning. And it's great to see the students out there running laps up around our playground. Our science club is putting together a balloon launch and hoping to do at the end of October. Right now we're talking about how we're going to make a full school experience. And our science club is primarily 5th graders, and depending on the project, extending it to 6th graders. I have 2 5th grade teachers running that, Kathy Burkhart and Tanya Tarian. Our robotics team's getting up and running. We're recruiting members right now, and that's open to 6th graders. Last year was kind of our pilot year, and this year we're hoping to really be competitive, so we're excited about that. And our student council is getting ready for elections. I know students are writing their speeches, and you're going to be voting pretty soon. And last but not least, we had Lisa Roy reached out. Well, we started a Bulldog Closet. I guess we should call it Bulldog Closet Kids or Junior, I guess, in high school. We found we had a closet that was just bursting full of clothes for donations. It was hard to keep organized. I was able to find a larger space for them this year. This summer, our maintenance staff kind of really renovated it for us a little bit. Both of our guidance counselors are managing it, and really is trying to find clothes that fit our elementary students. Often stuff is donated either for the younger kids for the primary or for the high school, and so we really just wanted to make it more functional. Previously, if the student is in need, I had some money available through raising stuff with the staff from Dress Down Day and things like that. Staff will pay $1, so we had limited funds. We buy things item by item. So Lisa Roy reached out to New Balance, and we had a huge donation of sneakers, kind of geared towards. She gave them a selection of sizes that meet our needs at Benton. So we had 117 pairs of shoes, so it's $4,680 worth of shoes, and they're right in our Bulldog Junior closet. And we have a work study from Thomas College that's working with us right now. He stopped by and said, hey, I want to help you guys out, and Thomas is paying him he's looking for community service, so he's been organizing it for us. So his name's Corey, he's awesome, and we've been giving him all sorts of tasks around the school to just stuff that we just don't have time to do right now. Just a quick needs. We do have plenty of backpacks still to give out, so if any students need any, just talk to our guidance counselors or their classroom teacher. We have tons of size 13 shoes for kids, and they don't really fit many of our students. So if you know anybody, we have them. We're trying to actually give them away because most of our sizes that we need are larger. And other needs, this comes from our guidance counselors: jeans, leggings, track pants, sweatpants. So any of those in sizes that fit grades 1 through 6, if you could please send them our way. We'll get them out to the students. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Clinton?
So I just had 3 quick things I was going to highlight because we were asked to just pick out a few things. So I just want to briefly let you know that this year Clinton got the Darlings ice cream truck for open house because Benton over here got it the past 20 years or something. And you have to ask for it an incredible amount of time ahead of time, a year and a half in advance or something. So we were able to secure that this year. We had a lot of fun with it. I actually dressed up in an ice cream costume. So my challenge to Mr. Wedges, when he has it for conferences, you should put on one of those costumes. It's really fun. It's a lot of fun. So we were able to raise $300, and that's complete profit for the school. So that was very good. Our PTO created the little picture frame that you see in the pictures. We have it in the front office right now, and of course there are a lot more family pictures than what I was able to put in here, but they're in a scrolling video on our TV in the lobby, and that's what this link is in here. If you go to that, that's what you'll see. I always welcome the staff and students every year. I get up on the ladder. They look pretty funny. That's what these 2 pictures are. And we do the pledge, and I just welcome
We also had our student council picks, and one of the things that I definitely want to highlight was that Dr. Neiman has already been in our building, and he was there the entire school day. He was there with me, welcoming the kiddos off the bus. He went to several different classrooms and talked with all the students. I asked him, I said he should have taken a picture with every single classroom, but something he thought of at the end. So this picture is with our 5th grade classroom, and actually talked to the students about some of his culture and native language. And I was in a 6th grade classroom, and he was in the 6th grade classroom, and he was doing numbers. And this one 6th grader was like furiously writing down what it was and kept asking him to repeat what was number 7, what was number 8. So afterwards I said to him, you realize she was writing them all down. That's why she kept asking you to repeat it. So it was really great to see him there. And comments from staff. You know, I've been here 20 plus years and I've never seen a superintendent come and spend an entire day with us. So that was really great to say goodbye to the kids at the end of the day too, getting on the bus. It was just really nice to see that. So, and then we have our members for our principals summer challenge that we're always trying to get more involvement. So we are going up by a little each summer. So we're trying to just increase that, and we're having an ice cream party tomorrow. Anybody who wants to attend, 2 o'clock, come on over. We have ice creams for the kiddos, and also they get some free books. So that's what's happening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sean?
Yeah, just to kind of hit the highlights of junior high. Opening days for junior high went very well. Of course, we had 7th graders coming in, in Benton, Clinton, wherever. And it's a kind of a nerve-wracking time to get used to the flow of the junior high through the day. But by now, we're going into our 5th week next week. They've got it pretty well down pat. They know where to go, who the teachers are, who to talk to, who to ask. If they do need some help throughout the day, they've adjusted very well. And of course, the 8th graders are kind of getting used to their role as a top dog in the school. So far it's been successful at the end of the year. Kind of like Brian, we received our New Balance donation. Typically receive it kind of later in the year, later in the fall, but we got it before the start of the school year. As you can see in the closure and climate report here, we received 79 pairs of shoes for $3,160 value, as well as 64 items of New Balance apparel with about $1,300 value. Many students received these and were very, very gracious and very grateful that they did. Those that may have been left over or whatever, they went down to the New closets in high school as well. So very thankful for the New Balance donation every year. Families and students of that. We had our open house on September 5th. Went very well. 6 o'clock. Parents came in to the auditorium. Gave a brief opening. Mrs. Faulkner and parents got to follow through the students' schedule throughout their kind of a mini day and get to know the teachers and what might be going on through their day. So that was very well attended. Junior high is working on getting our school council ready, so we've got some notices out there, and we'll be starting that very soon. And finally, we have our co-curricular, both athletic and non-athletic events going on. We have the new online registration that we're doing along with the high school, so parents can go online and register for all our athletics online, all the permissions, the physical forms can all be uploaded and done online, kept online, and we just print off permission forms, give them to the coaches, and it's that simple. We have about 330, 340 students, and Mrs. Stevens told me the other day, we have about 125 students involved in some sort of co-curricular activity in the fall.
Oh.
So they're out there and they're doing stuff outside of the school day. So we're very pleased with that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Lawrence High School, Mark and Carl, as you know, we're preparing for NEAS and a couple of meetings. So there's a state meeting they're required to attend, so they were excused. The report is attached, and if you have any questions, please, next time they will be presenting those. My report, as you can see, the enrollment report, that excludes the September 28th when we add the pre-K to Clinton, and as well as some communication. And that is my report.
Couple questions for you. How many have we had enrolled in the pre-K out in Clinton now, do we?
We're full, yeah.
So what does that mean?
17.
17.
So we have 59 at Fairfield Primary and 16 at Clinton, so 75 altogether.
You haven't even started yet, so.
Ari, how many moved from, how many were in Clinton that were going to Fairfield and now they're back in Clinton?
We still have probably about 10 families at Fairfield Primary. We have wraparound services, all-day childcare from 6 to 6. So some families elected to stay at Fairfield. There are families, though, that really needed Clinton, that they were in walking distance. And so we gave parents the option that were currently enrolled first. And then all the rest of the students that were on wait lists were given priority, and we were able to move everyone in. We only have about 5 spaces available at Fairfield Primary and nothing left at Clinton. We have until next Friday really to get them up and started, because we do want to make sure that we have it all in Infinite Campus and the child count to be, done correctly for October 1st for the actual child count with
Right.
state subsidy. So the students will be starting in Clinton and the new students in Fairfield Primary next Friday on the 28th.
Thank you so much. I
Thank you.
appreciate all the work.
Thank you. I had a couple of quick questions. Tara, how'd the audit go? You finished the audit?
We came Tuesday and they left today.
Okay, because I got my email from Craig asking certain questions, and
Nobody went to jail.
so we're good.
They had, for the, yeah, I think in true Tara, I know she worked so hard with the staff. This is the first time they had full access to any staff. They visited, they had questions they asked, full transparency, and I know Tara has done a lot of work, so I appreciate that, Tara.
Appreciate that, Tara. That's really good. Thank you. Okay, so, yeah, that's good. Thank you. My other question that I had, and then if anybody else has any other questions, question I had was for Cheryl, busing. How is our, I know that we had some issues at Benton here at our last meeting. Is it, I know it seems like it's getting a little bit better, but is it?
We're good. The first row of buses that left yesterday and today, 303 and second 6, 313.
Okay.
I
that's
can
much
tell
better.
you 15 minutes has been
Yeah.
wiped off the last stops.
They'll actually get a little bit better because we just implemented a new system yesterday, where we're putting pictures in the windows so the kids can get used to where their buses are parked with a certain color.
Yeah, I saw that.
So the kids will get
Yeah.
even better about that once time goes on.
And I appreciate that, because one thing she did, and we did, every single bus time entered and left was recorded, because
Oh,
we
good.
wanted to see the trend. And she texts me every bus that leaves and comes at the
Good.
time.
Nice.
Good, nice.
Sorry.
Right, that's how we did. Katie?
Yeah, I just had a question.
Because, I know, so,
Oh.
I think the only way you can figure it out is a trend. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no problem. Is it, we received a letter home for Benton Elementary students about the bus. And it said that bus 6 boards at 3:15, at 3:17, that's what the letter had said.
And that adjusted, yes.
Yes, but nobody told me, because my daughter got dropped off at 3:18. I have to drive from Skowhegan. I need to really know the immediate times, because I
Okay.
am pulling in the driveway, and which caused me to have to chase, and the bus driver is amazing, and Oakley did not care, and she didn't even notice. I asked her about it, and she's like, I said, well, what did Mr. Jim say? And she's like, he said, how are you today? And so she didn't even care. I mean, but it's just really, really important. And I know I'm not the only parent who is like rushing to get home to
We're going to update the computer, internet
Yeah.
times and stuff too. We just.
I know you're super stressed out
But
about it.
yesterday, it was the first day that we actually really got home on time. We worked with Dan and Brian. I got a lot of calls yesterday from bus drivers because parents weren't home, and I called parents and they'd be like, well, the bus doesn't come for 10, 15 more minutes.
Yeah,
I'm
and
like,
that's what
yeah, we're good, aren't we? They're like, yeah.
Yeah, no, it will be good. It's
No,
just, it's really important
Yeah.
to vote, because I am not the only parent who's rushing to
Yeah.
meet the bus.
We definitely will do that. We want to make sure to do that. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Maybe we could send a robocall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because-
That's
because I
good,
got
then.
the letter,
That's
and the
good.
very next day, it was like
Okay.
the bus was there 1 minute.
Yeah.
Just to leave the comments.
No, Cheryl, I really have
because
to
of the
thank you
change.
because my kids are actually getting off the bus at 4 instead of 4:15 to 4:30. So that's a long day for them.
We work there really, really hard, and Scott has hard and fast, so it's been difficult trying to get everything, but I had a lot of good help, and Scott came back and we worked it out.
Yep.
It's fine.
So I appreciate all the work, Cheryl and Scott. I think I just wanted to, the process is in a way for by next week, we kind of assess 1 week at a time. And then, and just take it from there. Here, like feedback you mentioned, I think we just have to continue to address it. So I appreciate all the work, and we definitely do that.
So
Thank you.
with that said, if the last buses are leaving at 3:13 and school gets out at 2:50, that's still 23 minutes. Teachers, I mean, they can't be happy with 23 minutes after school's out.
Last year, we were leaving at 3:10, so we're only 3 minutes later.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna address it.
And you must be leaving earlier, she's
Yeah.
getting dropped off 1 minute later.
faster, the teachers don't have to be out there
Yeah.
as long as the
Sure.
support staff is still around.
All right.
Yep.
Jenny?
I'm glad to hear everything is going well and it's settling in, which is kind of what we expected.
Right.
But I have a more process-related question. Like I had sent in a request to have a formal update on what was the start time of each school, before and after, and the busing information. So what is the process to have something placed on the agenda
Who
as a
did you
report?
send it to? I didn't get
To
it.
the entire board and to you
I don't remember if I
on
got it.
September 6th.
Did I get it? I don't remember.
I think
Okay.
Did
so,
I?
yeah. There was
Was it
quite a
with
lot
some-
of conversation
oh,
back and
was-
forth.
okay.
My
So
apology.
I just want to understand if that's not the appropriate way to ask for something to be on the agenda, then what would be the appropriate way?
I think the biggest thing is I think it went in back and forth and rather than specifically asked for.
Oh, it was specifically.
Okay, then I
in the-
apologize.
in the
It's probably
first-
something that I,
The first email
Okay.
that I would like
Yeah,
a formal
I'm gonna-
report back on September 20th.
I make sure
Okay.
put a comment here so I don't forget it. And my apology if I missed it. I definitely will add that here for myself so I don't forget. All right? You know? So I want to make
Okay.
sure to add that. And if I missed the email, I do my apology. We will give you update about transportation, where we are.
I'd actually like something documented so that we can see for each school, what was the start time before, what is it now, what was the
Yeah.
end time before, what was it now?
I have weekly, start doing that to kind of figure out the progress.
Mhm.
So I can do that. I'm happy to do that for next time too.
Yeah. And I can re-forward that email.
No, that's
Yeah.
okay. I'll make sure I do that, and my apology for that.
yep,
So we'll go back to the high school, so they're not here to report. Back to New Balance. New Balance, we know hit Benton and the junior high. They also emailed me looking for a contact for the high school. So they were looking to donate some more to the high school. I called Mallory Harrison to see who she had spoke with at the junior high level. Got a hold of guidance, and Kate Wood, our JMG director, is gonna be the contact for the high school as well. So they're gonna do more with the high school for shoes and athletic apparel, and they donated some more backpacks for the backpack program. And I just had one more comment. Congratulations to little Mrs. Boyden on her election in Clinton, Vice President Clinton Elementary. Pretty cool.
And student of the month. Very exciting.
I appreciate these reports. It was nice to be able to get them way ahead of time and read, and all the time and effort you guys put into them.
yeah,
I really like the change. Thank you.
thank you. Does anybody else have anything else this evening? Any other business? Okay, hearing none. Can I get a motion?
I motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Danielle, seconded by Katie.
Yeah.
All those in favor? Terry? Oh, Terry. Are you serious? She's gonna record it. Unanimous. Okay, motion.